how important do you think is the fact that you need to have the right partner in the life as well as in business?
But all I can say is one is maybe don't get into chocolates.
Mercedes and IBM are one of your clients, right? As someone who's just starting out in their careers and wants to crack these big clients, what has been your pivotal decisions that you took early on in the days that helped you crack these clients?
That's a tough one. I think.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of D2C Queens on Mic with Clevrr AI. This is a special podcast series that we're doing on the occasion of Women's Day to empower D2C women founders of India and bring their stories in the spotlight and in front of a lot of people. Today we have with us Chenddyna Schae, who is the founder of Jus'Trufs, which is a chocolaterie, desserterie and cafe in Bangalore. Chandana, thank you so much for doing this podcast with us and agreeing to do this podcast. And I welcome you to D2C Queens on Mic. Would love to know about you and Jus'Trufs and how things started. So if you could tell a little bit more about that, let's begin with that.
Hi, Yuvraj. Thank you so much for inviting me for this special episode on Women's Day. And I love the name Queens on Mic. It's a really badass, nice, good name. I'm Chendryna Schae, and I founded Jus'Trufs in 2001. That's 23 years ago. Started from the kitchen at home, just like a lot of people start doing their baking and chocolate businesses from home. But I was doing only chocolates. And for about 4 years, we worked from the home, and then we rented another house and we worked from there. And for about 10 years, we were working only exclusively on customized chocolates for corporates. We managed to get like good clients. After 10 years, we decided to, invest some more money, and we built our own space on Jakkur Main Road. So we went from a small, 800 square foot home to a 7,000 square foot space. So suddenly, like the huge expanse of space and the scaling up was quite daunting initially.
Great, great. Having done that in 2001 and all the way till 2025, that's like good 15 years, 14 years of business. That I'm sure that brings a lot of experience to you and a lot of learnings as well. So do you mind telling a little bit about the landscape shift that has happened in chocolaterie and D2C back in 2001 when you were starting off, and now in the age of this digital world and the AI world?
Yeah, so first of all, Yuvraj, it's been 23 years. I think you mentioned
Oh yeah.
14, so it was
Yeah, yeah, sorry,
23
that's that. Yeah,
years.
yeah, yeah, sorry, that's on mine. Yeah,
Okay, so yeah, there's obviously a lot of change in 23 years. I was new to Bangalore at that time, and there wasn't any really homegrown chocolate brand making chocolates at home. And so now, there's so many new opportunities, there's so many skilled teachers. In our times, when I was studying in the 1980s, there were no teachers for chocolate making, and now we are lucky that even in Bangalore we have some very, very good institutes teaching. And I think parents are also more progressive now, and they'd like their children to, follow different passions. So all in all, it's a very exciting time for food and desserts and chocolates. I would say all over India.
and how this shift has happened, like back in 2001 when startups or entrepreneurship was not that boom, and now you are in 2025 and you see a startup popping up in every street of Bangalore. uh, you've been at the forefront of experiencing this shift of new startups coming up both in D2C as well as the technological thing that is happening. How has your experience been? I'm sure a lot of people would visit your cafes also, and you would get to interact with a lot of them. How has this shift happened, and what has been your experience in that sense?
I would say people are much more aware of what they're eating. They're much more conscious about their fitness. They are looking at labels. They are understanding what is good for you, what is not good for you. They're very particular about what they give their children and their husbands. So everyone has, and also I've seen obviously in the last 20 years, a lot more people are traveling abroad. They're experiencing fine food, fine dining, fine patisserie outside the country, and then when they come back, their standards are pretty high up there. So they expect better and they want better, and they're getting so much better. So that's been a shift, of course. And it's we've opened the cafe like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And it's so beautiful because I've seen kids grow up, spending their first birthday and now spending like their 14th birthday in the cafe. And parents coming and saying that we've been ordering from you for the past 7 years, past 10 years. uh, Clients who have been coming and sitting in the cafe like twice a week, thrice a week over the past, I don't know how many years. We see so many regulars, and they all just say one thing: we love the space, we love your ambience, it's so soothing. And it's very heartwarming to get this kind of experience every day. So much love from our clients, and they're so loyal in today's world where there are so many choices.
Yeah, that's actually true. I mean, like having done that for such a long time, you actually get to recognize the faces who were like the early visitors, and now they're continuously coming for last 7-10 years. This would have been a lot of energy boost for you too. That your offerings and your chocolates are so enticing and tasty that these clients come back to you even for like 10 years, even having all of these options.
I think it's the entire package because we serve great food also. We pay a lot of attention to our food. Everything is like sourced local, try to be sourced locally as far as possible. And we cook fresh food. I mean, we don't take frozen burgers and fry them and serve them up to you. We don't take frozen pizza sauce and make it. We make everything from scratch. So that makes it a lot more difficult on our part and on the part of the kitchen and on our recipes. But that is the promise we have given, like we want to serve you what we would serve our children. So we don't want to serve you anything with additives or preservatives. So people recognize that, and they value that a lot.
So, Chandana, when you started off and you mentioned you were able to crack some good big clients, I think Mercedes and IBM are one of your clients, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, as someone who's just starting out in their careers and wants to crack these big clients and want to serve with them as well, what has been your pivotal decisions that you took early on in the days that helped you crack these clients and maintain such a long relationship with them?
Yeah, actually, it's been really wonderful because one thing is when we started out, we were very clear about our sourcing and our ingredients. Like we were very clear that we will only source and give the best of ingredients. And so while we were very expensive, even when we started out, and even now we're considered to be moderately expensive, people understand the value of good quality ingredients. And so that has been a major thing. Of course, now that time there was no digital world, there was no not internet, and there was no Instagram. Now of course people have Instagram and social media to promote what they do. At that time we used to take part in pop-ups and give tasting sessions, and that's how we got our first few clients. We used to get clients from Just Dial, Yellow Pages earlier. Now of course with Instagram and Google ads and LinkedIn, and it's different kinds of clients reach out to us. And of course we have a D2C brand, so we have a street presence on Chakur Main Road. So a lot of our clients walk in and they like what they see, and then they ask us for like higher quantities for corporate gifting.
Great, great, great. So the entrepreneur in me wants to ask you this question, which even I get asked a lot of times: that how do you differentiate from your competitors, and that too in such a competitive market where there are brands who are building all of these things in bulk and have that competitive advantage of selling out in bulk, whereas you are sort of customizing it and keeping it to a bakery and letting clients walk in and taste it and then eventually buy it. So what exactly has been your competitive advantage over those clients who are like building this in bulk?
Yeah, so we also actually sometimes marvel at the fact that we have such loyal clients. But I think what differentiates us is that we're very personalized. I mean, you come into us, come in and you call us and you say, I just want one hamper which is like just so right for my husband's birthday. And we'll come up with ideas and we'll say, we mix this, we match this, and we can do that for you, which large companies cannot do. So, large companies, they have the competitive edge that they can give you 1,000 boxes, 2,000 boxes overnight, and we can't do that. I mean, we need at least a week's time to give you 2,000 boxes. But our competitive edge is that we are very personalized. And so if you come and tell us that I want exactly this logo on the chocolate, and I want exactly this color ribbon, and I want the box to look just like this, whether it's a wedding client or a personal anniversary gift, or it's a huge corporate event, we can customize it. And in 3 days, 4 days, we can customize something. I mean, now we become much quicker. So sometimes even in 2 days, overnight, we customize gifts for you. So I think it's that personalized customization that gives us the edge. And of course, when it is fresh and fresh hand-picked ingredients and handmade chocolate, it does taste different from a factory-made product. And it's a lot more personal, is all I could say.
So, like for example, if someone wants to start a D2C brand into chocolates just tomorrow, right? Would you suggest that young 24, 25-year-old entrepreneur to focus on personalization till an extent where this becomes a competitive advantage big enough to throw away Cadbury's and perks of the world?
No, no, we cannot ever compete with the Cadburys and the Perks. They have to exist. The Ferrero Rocher is still ruling in terms of corporate gifting. But all I can say is one is maybe don't get into chocolates because cocoa is becoming very scarce. There's a global climate change happening, and our the price of procurement of cocoa has gone up 400% last year, and it's really hit all of us very hard. So we can't raise prices by 400%, then chocolate will be unaffordable. So one is you've got to understand your climate and understand your ingredient, and the cocoa is the star of our ingredients. So I would say if you want to set up something today, maybe diversify with chocolate and don't focus so much on chocolate, but diversify into other things as well. Yeah, because there's lots you can do with gifting. You can do, nuts. You can do other lot of other things with gifting.
Got it, got it. I wanted to shift the gears a little bit from the business side of it to the personal experiences of yours. So I think you've done a course in confectionery and bakeries back in 1980s.
Yeah.
Back in the time when it's such a niche course, it's such a niche thing to do, and that too being a woman entrepreneur. The society at that time used to look down on women entrepreneurs having to take up jobs and entrepreneurship and all of that. Can you tell us a little bit about your early struggles when you started this off? How did you manage to get the society around you to accept the fact that you're starting something of your own, and what were the early struggles that you faced?
So actually, in the 1980s, when I did the course, there was no. I did the course on confectionery, and then I did hotel and administration and food technology and Sophia's. There was no entrepreneurship was not even a buzzword at that time. I just wanted to say that I want to do my own business. I don't want to work in a hotel. So that was my thought process. And when I finished the course, there was no one teaching us chocolates, but I was lucky enough to train at the Taj Kitchens, and they used to make chocolates. And there was something about that, wrapping chocolates all day, that maybe something went into the subconscious and said, okay, this is what you're going to love and do. But doing a course, it teaches you a lot because you learn the correct techniques and how to do things. Though those that's a very old course. Now I have to keep updating myself with newer skills and newer courses. So I've been lucky to have been able to go to Belgium and Europe and Australia and train with masters all over the world. So you have to keep updating yourself in whatever field you are in. So that's one thing. And secondly, uh, in the classroom, everything is perfect. You have all the ingredients, you have the right ovens, you have the right equipment. But when you try to do things at home, it's really expensive. Getting all those ingredients together, getting the right oven, the right equipment, the right fridges, the air conditioning, it's expensive. So you have to think through that, how much you're going to spend and what you're going to focus on. So I would say, like, if you're starting something from home from scratch, start with a very small menu, start with a very niche focus of what you're going to do, and stick with that until that grows. That's how we've grown, step by step by step. Start with one thing, then perfect the other thing, perfect the next thing, perfect the next thing. You can't start with everything on day one. You'll stretch yourself too thin.
That's actually a good advice, because you start small, then you go on to scale. Because if you start with scaling from the day one and you're left with nothing, that there's no business to be made. So better if you start small and then scale, right? I'm sure you must have used this technique as well in your early days.
Yeah, we have used our own funds, so we have not taken funds from any investor, and we were very clear that we want to focus on quality and we don't want to scale. Which is very different from the way most young people think today. They say they start today, and in 6 months they say I want an investor and I want to, scale. So that's a different mindset today. Maybe that works. We can only know in a matter of a few years if that works or not. But I think you should be first of all passionate about what you do, because you're going to be spending your lifetime or at least a few years of
Correct.
your life doing it. So if you don't love what you're doing, don't get into it. And if you get into it, then take it to the next logical step. I mean, there are always times when you have self doubt and you have like, oh, am I not good enough for this, or should I try something else? This is not working, because everything takes time. It takes a lot of time and patience to build a brand.
That's true actually, and patience is actually a competitive advantage as well. I mean, like if you can wait for 5 years to make things work, then you have a competitive edge over your competition. So it's just gonna die out in 2 to 3 years. That's great. But I also am curious. In the early days, there must have been some sort of gender bias towards women not entering into the entrepreneurship or business sector, but you being the rebel out there who wants to like start something of her own. So can you tell us something about those early days when you must have faced some sort of gender biasness, or was that not a case for you?
So when I started Jus'Trufs, I was already married with my two kids. But before that, when I finished college, I had two entrepreneurial ventures. I started a cafe in Manipal, and then I came back to Bombay and I started a chocolatery from home in Bombay. Um, so I think my parents were lovely, because they did not say that you should not do. I was the only one in my family who started doing business. My parents were both in working in jobs, and they said, okay, if you think you want to do it, you can do it. And my dad just said, I have only this much money I can give you. I can't give you more than that. So it was, I would have barely borrowed like 2,000 rupees from him or something at that time, but I would keep investing the profits. And so I always wanted to make it on my own. And later, when I got married and when I started Jus'Trufs again, when I was about 39 years old, um, my husband's family, I was really lucky. They're from an entrepreneurial family. All the women in his family were part of the business, and even some of his cousins and all were in business. So it was not difficult for me to start a business, even at 39. So luckily for me, I haven't faced gender bias. And actually, when it comes to chocolates and desserts, they expect a woman to be behind that brand. So I think if a guy sets up the brand, he's going to have more gender bias than I would. And I would say,
Yeah.
even going to corporate offices and meeting clients and all, I have never faced any kind of threat, or I haven't luckily faced any of that. And I haven't gone to apply for loans, but I believe when women try to get loans from bank managers, then they get a lot of questions. Bring your husband, because I'm part of a lot of women groups, women entrepreneurial groups. So they tell me these things.
So, starting off a business at 39, when you're already married and have kids, but there's always this thing in entrepreneurship that says that there is no such thing as work-life balance, right? You have to work all day, and if you focus on work too much, you miss out on your life, and if you focus on life too much, you cannot put 100% of your work. How has this been for you? Like, did you manage to keep the work-life balance properly, or there is no such term as the work-life balance for you?
Yeah, so for me, I think my kids were already like 6 and 8 years old, when I started. No, yeah, they must have been, yeah, around that age. They were already in full-time school, full-day school when we moved to Bangalore. And my husband had taken a downturn in his business. So he was home a lot. Otherwise, earlier he was working a lot and I was at home with the kids. Then suddenly there was a shift, and so I started, creating my recipes and doing things. And we had to do a lot of promos on weekends, because we would take part in pop-ups on weekends. So sometimes I would go, sometimes he would go, and so if I went, he would look, play cricket with the kids on Sunday. And, he was really, really supportive about all this. And sometimes you would just take the kids along and say, okay, come on, you like to help mom serve hot chocolate in the stalls. And they would be, oh, okay, let's do it. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I used to work from home, so sometimes I wanted to be home every evening when the kids came home from school. But sometimes I would just say, "Come on, wash your hands and no doing homework, no going out to play. You've got to wrap chocolates because mom has got like a really big order today, and we have to finish it tomorrow." And they would be okay, okay, like So they were very, very encouraging. And because I was home, working from home for the first at least 4 years of my business, I think that also made a difference. Of course, there have been times when you had to sacrifice, something's happening in school, something's happening here. I mean, balancing hats as a woman is like, you could write books and books on that. So now, luckily, of course, the kids are older, boys are older. So, but they're always very encouraging. Even my husband is like now part of the business. So, it's good to have him because then I don't have to oversee like GST and invoicing and accounts and taxation, and those things are not my headache. Because if you're doing it all alone, then you have to do production and finances and everything. So then that takes a lot of toll on you. So
Can you
it's
tell
very
us an anecdote about such thing, like when this happened, when you had to be at your boys' school, but there's also a big order that's come up, and you had to choose between which one should I go for?
Yeah, there've been like a lot of instances like that, but I can't seem to remember any clear one. I mean, in fact, just last week in the beginning of Feb, my son just decided to give me a surprise and landed up home. And I said, "Why did you come today? Tomorrow I have to go to Mohali and I'm doing this course on entrepreneurship." I said, "Oh, I forgot you're going tomorrow." So it's always hard leaving the kids at home, boys, even though they're older now, but it's hard leaving them. And I mean, there have been a lot of times when I've had to go to whatever, when I wanted to go to parent teacher meetings, and there's work going on at home, and some orders going on. It's always a balancing act, exams, and it's a lot.
So, when you started off, you said that you were married and had kids. How do you think how important is the importance of having the right kind of partner with you in those early days when no one around you is believing in you, and you need to have those early believers around yourself, because a lot of time what happens is uh, you get in a relationship or a marriage, and then there's a lot of responsibilities around you, and then there's a more focus on serving the responsibilities of the family than the business. But then there are people like your husband who encourages you to go for the business rather than that, and take the homely responsibilities on himself. So how important do you think is the fact that you need to have the right partner in the life as well as in business?
Yeah, it's very important because for the first 10 years of our marriage, I was in not in Bangalore, we were in Dandeli. So that was like full my responsibility to run the kids, run to look after the kids, to run the house. We used to have a lot of guests, and so 10 years I was like just totally not doing any business and not even thinking about doing any business. It's only later in 2001 when we moved to Bangalore and things weren't so right with my husband's business that I thought of, okay, let me see how we can augment the family income, because it was a really difficult time for us. And it was very good that he was there encouraging, and right now, even till now, like he's a full on encourager, always encouraging me. And there's also serendipity, right people come to you at the right time. So when we were setting up the cafe in 2010, 11, we had built this big building, and we said we'll build I said, I want a cafe, I want a chocolate shop, I want a cafe. And he says, who's going to run this, because you already have your hands full with your chocolates and clientele. So I said, I don't know. And then one of my friends, she just called me and she said, the cafe was ready. It was set up. The chairs and tables were set up. We just didn't know how we're going to run it. And she rang up, and she's Shabana, and she said that, like, I'm really bored of sitting at home and doing nothing. And I had a business, now I've shut it. And my kids are all abroad. And so I'm really looking for something to do. So we said, okay, come on. And we were friends, and we knew her caliber. And we always thought that, maybe one day we could work together. That was always in my mind. But when she said it, I was like really amazed that she called at the right time. And then so she turned out to be the co-founder of my cafe and my and our cafe and our she handles the day-to-day operations so smoothly, bakery, school trips. She handles so many facets of our this thing that we don't feel the stretch. We know what's her strength, we know what's my strength, we know what's my husband's strength, and of course we all have to work together to create things. But then once we know what we're all doing, then we again are on our own managing our parts of what we're doing.
That's such a nice story. I mean, like the right people coming together at the right time. It's like all the stars are aligning at the same time, and everything is just working out fine.
Yeah,
That's
even when I started the chocolates from the home, I had like a really young lady who moved with us, and she used to look after the boys. And then the boys were bigger, and they were in full time school. Then I said, okay, can I teach you how to make chocolates? So she became my chocolatier. She and my driver's wife, they were my chocolatiers, the two women running it so beautifully, so naturally, like it just came to them. They had no like previous training or anything. And that's when I realized that somebody who has the right attitude. So now I have like a production head who has been with me for like 23, 24 years. And he was originally a cook in our house. And then he's trained himself to become my master chocolatier. And I have a logistics head also who's been with us for 24 years. So it's just, I think it's really wonderful to have these kind of people in your life. And we have so many women running our organization. We have Lakshmi who handles our accounts, our admin. She just handles everything. Like she has that systematic bent of mind that I don't have. Then we have Trisha, who she just came to us like 8, 10 years ago, and she's said, I moved from Delhi, and I'm looking for a job in a chocolate company. And so I said, okay. And we've seen her grow up, we've seen her get married, we've seen her have a kid. She's taken a break for 3 years. Then again, after the kid was born, within a year, she was like, can I come back? Can I come back? But it was COVID. So it took us 3 years to, start working with her again. So we've always encouraged people to come back and women to come back to the workforce after having their babies, or if they've had a difficult life or a difficult marriage, and just come back and, build yourself up again.
That's actually an interesting point that you mentioned about COVID, and I wanted to bring that point into the conversation as well. That a lot of D2C brands and especially offline cafes and bakery sort of things faced a lot of hardship during the COVID time because the world was not out and everyone was in their homes, and businesses were struggling to manage the cash flows and the business and everything. What were the struggles that you faced during COVID, and how did you manage to go through it and even sustain in 2025?
It was very, very difficult. It was the worst period of our life for the business, because just before COVID, for the last 1.5 years, we were trying to export to US. And just before COVID, in Jan Feb, we sent our stock to US. And after that, we could not sell it because we just didn't have the funds and the means to promote our products. So we lost a lot of money there. We sell at duty free shops, so we sent products to duty free, which for 2 years they were not functioning. Flights weren't functioning. We couldn't go there. We couldn't do anything. We lost a lot of money there. People coming to the cafe. I mean, obviously the cafe was closed for the first 6 months, and we just managed to because we weren't paying rent. It was our own property, so that was the only advantage we had. But whatever savings resources we had, we just pulled it into people who are from out of town staying in our building, feeding them. And we just started little community initiatives like baking bread. Two girls would come from to the bakery and bake bread, and we just started little community initiatives and saying we're baking fresh bread. Swiggy Genie started at that time. That was like quite a lifesaver. They started delivering breads and all for us. But I mean, our sales were just nothing compared to what they were, and our overheads were huge. We had to, cut down on everyone's salaries. We had to say, a handshake to quite a few people after a few months. We couldn't afford them. 2 years was like a real upheaval. It
And
was
then
difficult.
how did that turnaround happen when the lockdown just opened up and everything was back?
It was
Uh,
gradual, yeah, because the lockdown, it would happen and then would close and happen and close. So there were second
yeah.
waves, third waves. Everyone was worried about being sick. We had a lot of people who felt sick. We lost a very, very key member of our team, and it was a very difficult time for all of us. And and then it slowly built up. It took a while. I would say even a year after COVID, it took a while to build up. But I think people our core team stood by us. We stood by them. I think we understood the value of each other. Everyone understood the value of each other. So yeah, it was a very tough time to turn around. And
But
we
I'm
were glad and lucky that we hadn't been on expansion mode with like 15 outlets and all, because then we would have been, even more wiped out, I'm sure.
Yeah, but actually that's it's good that it's over now, and we hope that never returns. It was a very hard time for a lot of D2C brands. Anyways, since we're on D2C as a sector, and we're talking about India, I want to understand what is your perspective around the growth of D2C in India. So I recently read somewhere that D2C is the second highest funded sector in India after SaaS and technology, right? So a lot of brands are popping up. Then there's like this acquisition of Minimalist by HUL, which was like the biggest deal in D2C sector. How do you see D2C market evolving in India, especially because in your case also, the onset of quick commerce like Zepto and Swiggy Genie and Instamart and all of this, uh, people now are shifting from a cost mindset to a convenience mindset. People prefer convenience over cost these days, and they don't mind paying that premium just for that convenience. And this shift has happened not long back ago, right? How this has been for your business, and where do you see Jus'Trufs positioning in the D2C as well as quick commerce market?
Yeah, so Jus'Trufs, we have created a couple of products that are really good for you, good, healthy, as well as that they can be used conveniently. So we have a sachets of hot chocolate mix and an energy bar, which is also very clean label. And we are trying very hard to get to the years of Zepto and Blinkit and Swiggy Instamart. So we have made applications. So we are hoping to hear from them soon. Yes, definitely convenience is a big thing. Even me as a homeowner and even as a brand owner, sometimes we take to quick commerce and just order our products and our supplies very because we've run out of something immediately and we want it. So we have all got used to quick commerce, and now there's also quick food. So there's Zomato Quick and Swiggy Bolt, which is offering you food in 10 minutes. So we've had meetings with them in just over the last week, over this week and the last week, that which product can we keep ready and offer it on quick food as well, like a quick service food, as well as maybe tie up with Zepto Cafe or snack or one of those. But whatever we do, we don't want to give you stale food and we don't want to give you frozen food. We want to give you something fresh, which is also good for you. So we're trying to adapt, because we have to adapt to technology and we have to adapt to new conveniences. So we have created these products and we are looking to place them on quick commerce, and we're also looking at how we can do quick food, because right now it takes our food is freshly prepared. It takes 15-20 minutes to prepare a dish or to finish an order. So there are one or two things that we could keep ready and offer it as quick food as well.
All right. There's one question that I ask each of my guests who comes on the podcast, and it's a really interesting question. Which
uh,
I Hello,
I think your voice is breaking.
hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, your voice had cracked. Yeah,
Yeah, can you hear me now?
yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So there's this one question that I ask all my guests on the podcast, and it's a very interesting question and very interesting to hear their thoughts around it. So the question is: imagine you have a time machine with you right now, right? And you can go back to 2001 when you started Jus'Trufs. But the caveat here is you have all the knowledge that you have right now in 2025 back in 2021 2001. what would you do differently, and what would you do exactly the same to help you reach where you are right now, probably faster?
That's a tough one. I think overall I'm pretty happy with the journey. Maybe I would have tried to get investors in early in life and expanded one or what I'm trying to do today is expand my one line of hot chocolate mix, and then I would have probably, if I had the knowledge at that time and the research and the knowledge at that time, I would have probably tried to do that much earlier, maybe when I was in my 40s, so that by now I would be maybe comfortably retired.
And something that you would not do, which you did now.
I would not have the kind of self doubt that I had at that time. And there's always that edge in you before a season because you've invested a lot of money in those packaging and the material, and you've bought your raw materials like 3 months in advance. But I know that at the end of the season, it's all going to get sold off. But there's always that little, what if there's another recession? What if there's something? And what if we can't swim through this season because there's a lot riding on that stock. So that inventory is expensive. But
So if you
yeah,
had to do it all
that
over
little
again.
bit of self doubt is still there.
Got it, got it. So if you had to do it all over again, you would do exactly the same and probably get some early investors, but you would not have that self doubt, that is it gonna go through the season or not. That's
Yeah.
quite some advice to look for the viewers who are watching this. Since this is Women's Day special podcast, and we're trying to empower women D2C founders. If someone tomorrow, as a woman, wants to start her D2C brand, what what are some things that you would tell her as a woman entrepreneur and as a D2C brand to be cautious of and to double down on, to not worry about?
I would definitely say that you must do something which is your own and which has an edge. I mean, don't be part of one of 15 biryani shops on a crowded street. There has to be some differentiator to you and your business. That's very, very, very important because nobody wants to go to, oh, I can buy from you, or I can buy from you, I can buy from you. So that would be very important. Be clear about your goals, like, where do you want to reach? Because we were very clear that we don't want to reach for the stars. We want to just be where we are, and we want to do things better and better every year. Little better, little better, little better every year. We don't want to like triple sales in 5 years. So, you've got to understand what is your approach. You've got to understand what is your limitations, how much investment you have, how much space you have, and what is it that you can do in that much space and time. And you have only so many hours in a day, so you have to spend some time at home, some time on yourself, some me time, as well as, I mean, me time gets a bit lost initially when you're setting up a business, but I would say over the years I've learned to take time out and spend time with family, and spend a lot of time on myself as well, do things that I want to do. But you've got to balance out your time, and also nothing is perfect. You can never be perfect. You can't be the perfect mother. You can't be the perfect housewife. You can't be the perfect business person. So accept yourself with your imperfections and just move on. You're doing the best that you can do today. So don't be hard on yourself and saying, "Oh, I didn't, I wasn't there for every single PTA meeting. I wasn't there to hold my kid's hand over every homework that he did," because there are some things that they're going to do on their own, and they'll manage. So don't be harsh on yourself. That's what I would say.
That's really great advice, and not just the women entrepreneurs. That's some good advice for me personally as well. Being an early stage young founder, not being harsh on yourself is something that I have not thought of probably in the last 7 8 months. But I'll keep that in mind, and I hope this
Thank
message goes
you.
out to the women as well. Thank you so much, Chandana. It was lovely talking to you, and thank you so much for doing this podcast. Any one last message that you want to give on the occasion of Women's Day out to the women in your life, women you want to reach out to, women who have been there for you? Any last message?
I would say like women are the backbone of anything you do. It's whether it's your home, whether it's your house help. They're the most important women in our lives. And then your teachers, your kids' teachers, people you work with, businesses you run, banks you go to, support systems you are in. Men are very, very important, but women, because they wear so many hats and they have so many more responsibilities, they really, really need to be saluted every day. But of course, I'm glad we have at least one day when we make the noise about it. But do respect the women and their mood swings and their this thing, because they could be having a really rough day.
Thank you so much, Chandana, for this. Love talking to you. I would love to host you sometime again, and maybe we can have a longer discussion. There are so many more questions that I want to ask, but we're just up with the time. Lovely conversation. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Yuvraj, and thank you for trusting us and having this conversation with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much.